Hello, welcome to another Sunday self session, which is where I basically go live and upload to IGTV on topics that basically enhance your relationship with yourself, hence the self session, and others as well, because that's the work that I do here. Hi Julie, hi Chrissy, yay. I mean, you guys, you're going to be getting a lot on self-compassion. So this is going to be, I'm talking to people in the membership, obviously. This is going to be a really nice introduction for you for the short course that's coming inside of Follow Your Fire. So if you're not in the membership and you already think I want access to that, you'll have to get in touch and I can give you the details of when you can come inside, because it will be there waiting for you. But today's topic, so this is one, self-compassion obviously, is one that means a lot to me when it comes to all of the work actually that I've done, whether it's in mental health, whether it's in what I'm doing here around relationships, because it really, really, really is something that I believe if we had access to the understanding, the education around how to be compassionate towards yourself, I really do believe it helps us to, not just I believe it, but we see the research coming out, right, of how much it can help you through difficult times, to navigate through life's challenges and to ease a lot of distress. So it's a topic that I'm really, really passionate about, and I've actually been saying for many years, the job that I have been doing for the last few years, not my coaching business, is around supporting people with anxiety and depression. And it is no secret that I always say that I think it would be really useful for most people, there are exceptions, if they first learn or had a course of self-compassion first, because I've delivered self-compassion workshops and there is no doubt of the help that it can give you when you are going through life in the work that I do now, going through heartbreak, experiencing rejection, like something, that you are sensing to mean some kind of failure. If we can have that compassion towards ourselves before that inner critic kicks in, or not even before, but to challenge the inner critic with self-compassion, it can be really, really useful. So why is because that inner critic, self-criticism, is so common. It plays such a huge role in people's lives, and there is reasons, like there is theories why, right? Our number one job is survival, and we have to focus on the bad so that we can, assess the risk, assess the threats. And so it does make sense. There are always exceptions. I always say that because I know people say, no, well, I'm really positive, or I know someone who's really positive. Of course, there's always exceptions. But a lot of the time people do focus on the negatives. If you add a history of low self-esteem, if you add depression, anxiety, a stressful situation, a painful situation to the mix, we tend to have even more negative thoughts. Okay, it enhances that. We can really get stuck in a cycle. It can be the chicken and the egg of which came first. The inner critic, is that going, and is that why you've got low self-esteem? Do you have low self-esteem and that is encouraging the inner critic? It doesn't really matter. The point is, if the inner critic is loud, if you are aware that your inner critic is running the show, then it's a sign for you that you want to pay that, some attention, to learn how to be more compassionate towards yourself. So you'll know if your inner critic is loud. It's that voice that comes at you with, I'm not good enough. Who do you think you are? You can't do this. I'm unlovable. And it really, really beats you up. And to be honest with you, everything I just said is probably quite kind for an inner critic. Like, your inner critic will be really, really harsh. It will go to your deepest, darkest wounds. Like, it knows how to hurt you. It knows what to say, and it will get you there. And it will swear at you, it will use the most painful words, it will use the words that it knows get you, that you will listen to, that will get your attention, that will get you in that spiral, make you play small, keep you stuck, those kind of things. And if you add rejection, if you add heartbreak, if you add all of that to the mix, because of course that's who I help, your inner critic can really, really come alive in those moments. And it doesn't help. There is an argument, okay, that your inner critic can motivate you. There's an inner critic that self-compassion means that you won't have to get up and go to do what you need to do. I don't see that as being true. I actually see your inner critic as keeping you on a loop. It keeps you on a cycle of like what ifs and shoulda, woulda, couldas. Self-compassion isn't about letting yourself off the hook for everything. It's still, giving yourself structure. It's still, telling yourself when you need to get something done or what you need to do and when you need to do better and what lessons you need to learn and things like that. But your inner critic will just be beating you up on a cycle and nothing gets learned. There's no moving on. You stay in the heartbreak, you stay in the failure, you stay in the pain. And that's when stuff is actually going on, because a lot of the time your inner critic is just loud for no reason. When there's legit no reason for it. It's completely in the wrong. Whether you can see that or not might need a fair bit of training on your part. But those of you that are just joining live or that are watching on replay, what is your inner critic like? Is it constantly active? Do you know your triggers? I did a poll on Instagram recently about how well you know your inner critic. Do you know the triggers? Do you know what it says to you? It's really, I will give you 3 tips around this, but it's just something to really think about. I particularly want to think about the impact of overcoming your inner critic, learning to live with your inner critic, and becoming more self-compassionate towards yourself, the impact that can have on relationships, on the relationships you have with other people, on becoming secure, feeling, good, happy within yourself. One thing that we know is that self-compassion is hugely beneficial when it comes to relieving distress. Okay, we know that now. We know that it has a positive impact on your mental health. We know that it can help you through difficult times. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what self-compassion is. Chrissy says, I don't think I know my inner critic that well. And that's fine. Like even just knowing that, right? Knowing I don't know my inner critic that well is really, really key. So self-compassion. Okay, we've talked a bit about that. It's self-criticism. What about, which by the way, we're all very guilty of. Self-compassion is essentially supporting yourself, understanding yourself, meeting yourself with kindness when you are going through a time of distress or pain in your life. So you are going through something and you meet yourself with compassion. So compassion for others, right? If you've got, let's say as an example, you have a friend who is going through a difficult time at the moment and they are coming to you with this problem. You might find that you meet them with some understanding in terms of trying to be solution focused. There might not be a solution, so you might just be there for them. Sometimes we will just do that through touch. We'll do that through listening. We'll do it through understanding, whatever it might be. We'll do it through pointing out, that time that they did really well, or the time that they, demonstrated and won at something else in life, and that's compassion towards someone else, meeting them without that judgment, meeting them with kindness during this difficult time. And self-compassion is doing that towards yourself. And the people that I work with are often guilty of not doing that. If anything, during those times, you're guilty of increasing those expectations on yourself. The inner critic getting even louder, being meaner to yourself, those kind of things, rather than, even if it's just touch, just a bit of self-touch. Okay, so that's self-compassion. There is the leading expert, I would say, is Kristin Neff. She's brilliant. I read her books, watch her, YouTubes, things like that. And she sort of puts forward 3 components for self-compassion. which is that it's kindness without judgment. So you meet yourself with understanding that you are going through this heartbreak, that you have fallen for an avoidant person again, that you have had an anxious episode again. You meet yourself with understanding and kindness and without judgment. The second is to know that it is universal. So to know that other people do experience this, other people feel this way. This is not just you. That can be really, really powerful to give yourself that understanding and knowledge that other people experience this too. It's a human experience. And the third component is to be kind of mindful of these and accepting of these negative emotions, not attaching too much meaning to them, not belittling them either, that they're there, and you being mindful of what you feel is really, really important, because we don't want to dismiss and suppress anything, but we also don't want to add to it either, because a lot of the time when we're feeling stuff, we can believe those feelings, we can make it mean something that they don't. So they're the three components for self-compassion for you to just think about and consider when you're going through a difficult time, to try and meet yourself by reminding yourself that you are not on your own with this. It can feel like you are a lot of the time when you're going through, something like heartbreak. It can feel like the most painful experience where you are so alone. And to remind yourself it is a universal learning experience can be really, really key. I often forget others experience the same feelings. Sometimes when you're feeling really anxious, you feel like the only person in the world who is in that place. And that's the thing. And that's why this is one of those key components, because it's really clear that it can make the difference. I've got my little list here because I don't want to forget this next bit of information, because what I do want to do is, of course, I am a relationship and self-esteem coach, so I really want to apply this to relationships, because it has been found that if you can be more compassionate towards yourself, that is to do that thing that people call selfish, which it is not. That's a whole other life. But if you can be more compassionate towards yourself, it does improve relationships with others around you. And I think it's really key to take that in, that if you work on self-compassion, which a lot of people put at the back of the queue, it is going to help you with relationships. So if you struggle with relationships, if you know you're in your head a lot, if you're experiencing a lot of pain in relationships, this is going to be something that helps you. Like I said, if you are inside Follow Your Fire, we are going to be doing a short course on this. I will just explain it briefly, and I will give you 3 tips as well that you can get started in the meantime. But why is there more of a balance? Why would being more compassionate towards yourself enhance your relationships? The first thing, and you would have heard me speak about this a lot before, is that it helps you in terms of self-soothing first. If you are able to be self-compassionate, you are usually able to self-soothe, that is to look after yourself, that is to bring yourself down to earth when your emotions have hijacked you, when you're losing yourself in love, when the anxiety takes over, the stress takes over, the physical symptoms have taken over, and you can't think of anything else, you can't focus on your day, you can't do your job. In those moments when we turn to other people to soothe us, to fix us, to tell us what's going on, you can usually soothe yourself when you are more self-compassionate first. Doesn't mean we're not going to go to others. You're very much allowed to rely on other people. You're very much allowed to seek that and have those needs met from other people. But it's really important for a relationship that you know how to soothe yourself in the first instance. And that's how it helps, okay? So if you are more self-compassionate, you'll have that ability to be able to self-soothe first. And look, that helps with that, the neediness. It helps with that feeling of needing to be saved. It helps with pushing people away. It helps with the too much and all of those things. Agreed. Certainly had to feel, hard to feel like the only one. That's why I like the support of the group. Yeah, it's one of the huge benefits of Follow Your Fire. you are able to see, this is the next reason why it's really key, you're usually able to see, if you're more compassionate, you're able to put yourself in other people's shoes, you're able to be more compassionate towards others as well, and that usually helps with things if there is conflict, if you're in your head, if you're following an unhelpful thinking pattern, you might be able to catch yourself that you're mind reading, consider what's going on for them, those kind of things. It's always about balance. You're not going to be all of a sudden like letting everyone off the hook for everything and being a doormat or anything like that. It's not about that. It's just that it's more balanced. Like I say, it's a universal experience. If you're self-compassionate, you're aware that what you're experiencing is more of a universal experience, that it's a normal thing for you to be, it's normal. It's not minimizing what you're experiencing ever, ever, ever. It's normalizing what you're experiencing, and there's a big difference there. But it means that you might take things less personally. A really big, symptom's the only word, I don't mean the word symptom, but that's what's coming up, so I'll say it. A really big symptom of the people that I work with is taking things really personally, right? So the rejection, that it's about me, it's because I'm not good enough, it's because of something that I did, I should have done that. And so it really helps with that. And when it comes to be like learning how to be secure, when it comes to moving through heartache so that you don't get stuck there, so when it comes to taking the lessons from a failure or a mistake or something that hasn't gone the way that you want it to, or a bad day, it's really important that you can realize that this is a bad day, this is not about me, this is not about my self-worth, and that you're able to stand firm in a difficult time, okay, but not make it about your self-worth and crumble. And it requires an awareness. If you are choosing self-compassion, especially if you're going from self-criticism to self-compassion, if you've been neglecting yourself and you're now learning how to be more self-compassionate, that means that you've built up an awareness. You have like instilled this incredible skill in yourself to be more aware. Now, if you have that kind of awareness to choose self-compassion, who has been here long enough to know when I talk about this, you will have the skill for the power of the pause. And when it comes to relationships, my goodness, if there is a skill we all need, it is the power of the pause. To be able to choose before reacting, to respond, like to self-soothe, right? Like I say, to choose your response before reacting, that is a huge pro of how self-compassion is going to help you. Like building your self-compassion is going to help your relationships. A few bonuses. Can we all be honest about what it is like to be around someone who is compassionate and kind towards themselves and understanding towards themselves versus someone who is constantly beating themselves up? I'm not saying that person, we don't like them, okay? If you fall into that pattern, you're lovable, you are enough, your friends like you, they love you, but it can be draining, okay? We've got to take some responsibility. It's going to be really draining if we're constantly criticizing ourselves, okay? So I think that's really useful to say. Other bonuses of being self-compassionate, because you're compassionate towards others, this really helps the people that I work with. Hear me out on this one before you switch it off and reject it. It means that you'll have more compassion for exes, the person that is being avoidant, the new girlfriend of the person that you love or think you love, the ex-girlfriend, whatever it might be, those quite triggering people, okay, that typically people find quite triggering. To be able to move towards compassion for them. There are times where I'm not saying you need to forgive. I'm not saying you need to go and be anyone's best friend, but it can be really useful. It's your choice at the end of the day. I would never force that on anyone to develop those sorts of feelings for people and to choose that road. But it's an easier road. It's an easier road to go down. So if you've got any questions around self-compassion, ask them now. And I will give you 3 tips, Okay, so ask now so that when it comes to me leaving, I know that you're not waiting or typing or anything like that. So the 3 tips I'm giving you is because here's the thing for me, self-compassion, oh my God, it's such a huge part of my journey. It's like a significant chunk of my journey. It really, really is. I just discovering it, learning it. I'm just so lucky that I happen to be delivering workshops at work, and that's one of the key ways I was learning it. And so because I was so interested and I was on my journey at that point, to teach other people was really helping me implement it as well. But where I saw it help me the most is that I used to blame myself if something ended with someone, or if I didn't hear from someone. I would go straight into self-destruct, and I would really heavily blame myself about what I should have done, could have done. And what I never ever did, especially if I'd had an anxious episode, I just beat myself up for like repeating those same patterns and how could you and da 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 da. But you know what? I never met myself with the understanding of why I experienced that difficulty. I never met myself with the experience of why I reacted that way before I knew how to respond. Instead of understanding that I was reacting to something, to the kind of people I was attracting to, I would take all of the responsibility. I would blame myself, beat myself up. So not only was I dismissing my experience, my pain, my triggers, my wounds, I was then beating myself up and like exasperating that and keeping that going. So that part of me, you guys know I do a lot of inner child work, that part of me experiencing that kind of pain again and again, was getting it from me over and over again, you know, and I was hiding my true self, I was hiding my story. So all of that together, it was really hard to be compassionate. I will take the questions at the end. Is there a way to try something small each day that is a deliberate self-compassion practice? I'll give you my tips, and then we'll see if any of them, that's going to answer them. So yes, there absolutely is. I would pick just one for the time being, but we will, inside Follow Your Fire for the short course, we will do a self-compassion plan for you as well. So my 3 tips is firstly, to really intentionally sit down with yourself. It doesn't have to be longer than 5 minutes, okay? And set an intention with yourself that you are going on this journey of self-compassion. And the point about this is that I would really want you to talk to the part of yourself that is afraid of that. The part of yourself that is going to put up a fight. The part of yourself that's going to come out to play when you're not in such a strong place, when you're not in the position where you can tune into Instagram and watch this. We know those moments when you have made a mistake, when you are feeling low, when you are struggling. You need to speak to that part of yourself and set an intention with that part of yourself that self-compassion is now going to be part of your life. And it's not going to be easy, but we're doing it. So number 1, set the intention that you are going to be learning more and practicing more self-compassion. Number 2 is awareness. I know we hear it all the time, but it is really an important part. And I was saying to one of my clients recently, because we want to go straight into challenging them, we want to go straight into being self-compassionate. But to be honest with you, we have to go through the process, and part of that process is just the awareness. Now, sometimes you will do that in the moment, sometimes it's going to be on reflection. Both of them count depending on where you are in your journey. So the awareness might be, you can keep it in a diary. I would start with recording your inner critic. Okay, firstly, you need to know when you're criticizing yourself, when that inner bully is coming up. Note the words you use. I say to it still can be automatic, but I can catch myself now, and it's less than it used to be. But for me, it's like, that's so typical of you. And it might sound like that's not a big deal, but it's really hurtful, because I'm usually giving myself a hard time about a mistake, or I've dropped something, or I've lost something, or broken something. So that's so typical of you. So that's just one example that I was then able to catch. And when those words automatically come up, I'm like, no, It's actually not typical of me. So things like that. So awareness, catch yourself. So the very first thing I would do, if you don't know your inner critic well, and that thing to do each day, Chrissy, is start by recording your inner critic. Not very nice. People often tell me it makes them feel worse, but I promise it's to get through to the other side. And then the other thing that you could practice daily is checking in with yourself what you would say to a friend when you're going through something. So if you are going through a challenge or a difficult time or a difficult hour, or there's an email you don't know how to respond to, whatever it might be, just check in with yourself what you would say to a friend. Is this how you would treat a friend? Someone that you care about, someone that you're supportive towards. It's really, really key that you pick that kind of person. And I love mantras. So a little bonus one is to consider a mantra, a kind, compassionate mantra that you can repeat to yourself over and over again is always really, really key. So they're just a few tips to get you started. Like I say, if you're in the membership, we will be doing a plan for you to be more compassionate towards yourself. Judy says, how do you forgive yourself when your worries of where is this going are overwhelming your mind? So I think forgive yourself. Is there anything to forgive yourself there for? Because you're not doing anything wrong. You're not doing anything wrong. Perhaps what you would want to do is notice the thought and meet it with understanding and kindness that you're in a place of uncertainty and that it's overwhelming you. So, and if you are feeling mad at yourself about that, then it might be just a case of forgiving yourself by simply saying, I forgive you for this experience because. Complete that sentence yourself. But I'm just worried about saying forgive because I feel like we might be feeding into the fact that it's almost like there's something to forgive yourself for. And I'm not sure that there is. So I think a whole lot of understanding of why it is that this is overwhelming for you, of why it's putting you in that spin. And then kindness, yes, but safety. You are safe, you are okay, whatever happens here, you're allowed to have conversations about where is this going. If that's still spinning, then it might be that self-soothing. And you might need to answer that question yourself, fill in the loop sometimes or complete the loop. Hopefully that helped. Okay, so that was a good 30 minutes of self-compassion, how it can improve relationships, and a few tips for you. I am going to be releasing more information around here about a workshop that I'm going to be running this month. So I will keep you all in the loop for that. So if you're enjoying this kind of content, you're going to love this workshop. That's outside of the membership for those of you that are inside. Oh, good, Judy. Hopefully that was helpful. That's good. So yeah, happy Sunday, or whenever it is that you're watching this. It's Sunday for me right now. Don't forget, you are enough. You are lovable. You are so, so worthy, and you are irreplaceable.